Hi, good evening. Hope you sleep well. Today we're starting with Many Pigeons. It's illustrated by Victoria Chess. A banded homing pigeon, whose outfit was the signal corps, had often observed a charming divicote in the steeple of an old church while flying his missions. He dreamed of settling down in the divicote when all the wars were ended and all the guns were cold. When he realized that wasn't going to happen during his lifetime, he decided to go WOLO, which means we only live once in Pigeon English. And so he came in for a landing on the threshold of the divicote. I don't know how to pronounce that word. Each pigeon living there figured out who he was while he was still 100 yards away. "It's Larkinvar. Come out of the nest," cried Morna Dove. "It's Lindbird," cried her mother. "Nuts and gargoyles," growled her father. "It's a stool pigeon." "He's wearing one handcuff," pointed out a male fantail. "He's broken away from the cops." "I think he's a jailbird, escaped from the penitentiary," said the fantail's brother. "He has a serial number." For the army pigeon was now so close that all the dovecoters could see his number clearly on the band above his leg. "He's a passenger pigeon," said a ground dove, who had not been around much but had read a great deal. "Then he's extinct, or hiding," said the ground dove's uncle, who had not read anything but had been around a great deal. "He's a fellow passenger pigeon, and they're the worst of all," piped up a cocky young male bird, who hung around cornices, and so only the females, who had mistaken the newcomer for Larkinvar and Lindbird, welcomed him. The others pushed him off the threshold before he could take off his hat, or catch his breath, or tell his name. Number 137,968, homing pigeon, attached to the United States Signal Corps, turned his back sorrowfully upon his dream corps and went back to work for the Department of the Army. Moral: there comes an end of toil and fun, but idle guesswork's never done, or this, alas, is sadly so. Folks would rather believe than know. The ordeal of number 137,968, illustrated by Victoria Roberts. A banded homing pigeon, whose outfit was the U.S. Signal Corps, and whose serial number was 137,968, had often observed a charming dovecote while flying a mission or returning from one. He decided to settle in the dovecote when all the wars were ended and all the guns were cold. But as time went on, he realized that he was in the service for the duration of his life, so he decided to go AWOL, or, as he called it, WOLO, we only live once, and spend the rest of his days among the cute female turtle doves, mourning doves, ground doves, and others he had caught sight of on his official trips. The ladies took to him at once and made him more than welcome. There was a great flutter and flurry as they tried to guess who he was, and there was so much conjecture and speculation that he didn't have a chance to identify himself. "He's Larkinvar," said Melba Morning, or Admiral Bird. "Nuts and popcorn," said her mate skeptically. "He's wearing one handcuff. Clearly he has broken away from the law." The other males fell in with this theory. "He's a fugitive from a chain gang," said one. "He killed Cock Robin," cried another. "He shot the albatross," screamed a third. But the ladies paid no attention to these dark accusations, and went on with their own wishing and wondering. "He's a warbird," piped up Lorna Turtle. "I love him for the dangers he has known." "He's Lindbird," tweeted Greta Ground. "He's the great flyer that discovered France." During all this fuss and feathers, number 137,968 was not able to get in a word. "Why doesn't he say something?" asked a suspicious male fantail. "All is not gold that is silent, you know. He is plainly a fake." "He's a passenger pigeon," shouted George Morning. "Passenger pigeons are extinct," his mate reminded him. "You're not extinct, unless something was the matter," said George darkly. "If he's not a passenger, he's a fellow passenger, and that's worse," cried a common young street pigeon. "I say, unfeather and tar him." And, in spite of the tears and pleadings of the lady doves, the males defeathered and tarred the newcomer, and pushed him out of the dovecote, and watched him flutter to the ground like a shoe. Number 137,968 had to walk all the way down to his Signal Corps unit, which took him 43 days. Nobody believed his story, or where he had been, and what had happened. "He's been living a sin," said the wife of Captain Pigeon. "He got stiff and fell in a tar wagon," decided Major Pigeon. "He got the worst of it in a street fight with common sparrows," cried the wife of Colonial Pigeon. And so, number 137,968 was court-martialed and discharged from the service on a total of 19 or 20 different counts involving hypothetical misconduct in 10 or 15 places, unnamed and unknown. Moral: there comes an end of toil and fun, but human guesswork's never done. It's another pigeon one. This is the pigeon episode. The Pigeon Who Wouldn't Go Home, illustrated by Victoria Roberts. A homing pigeon, returning from a mission, flew closer than he had ever had before to a belfry that had fascinated him on previous trips. It was the belfry of an old abandoned church, and it was full of attractive female fantails, and, of course, many proud, pompous, parading, possessive males. The closer the homing pigeon flew to the fascinating belfry and its dovecote of desirable cuties, the more fascinated, fearless he became. He decided all of a sudden, catching a captivating close-up of a flirtatious fantail, to abandon, desert, quit the army, Signal Corps, for he was a banded grommet flyer, and live in the belfry. Everything went well for about 9 seconds. The females liked the debonair newcomer, but the males hated the sinister intruder. Note: in this recasting of the story, a few handwritten words may remain uncertain. They are designated with likely guesses in brackets. "He can truly be a fellow traveler if he hasn't any feathers," said the wise old carrier. But they didn't know what he meant and didn't care. Under the leadership of the fiery young pigeon, the others set upon the sinister intruder, injuring one of his eyes, pulling out most of his feathers, straining one of his wings, and dragging him from the belfry. "Tar and unfeathered, the rascal," cried the fiery young pigeon, as they tarred and unfeathered him. As the result of his misconduct, he was grounded for 3 weeks when he finally dragged himself back to his post. Moral: neighbor, stranger, friend, or foe, the world would rather believe than know. We'll finish with this one. The possum who wasn't playing dead. 2 possums, a female and her mate, quarreled one night so long and late that Inspector Mastiff and Sergeant Dashhound came out to investigate. They found the female possum smoothing her hair with an automatic and putting a record on the gramophone. "My mate is playing like he was dead," she said coolly. "He's playing plenty good, like he was dead, but he is," said Mischief, bending over the body behind the sofa. "If I could shoot like I used to I could have done it. But I can't, and so I didn't," explained the possum's widow. Sergeant Dashhound was writing in his notebook. "These kind of murders are getting more all of the time. It's gone so a male can't get up for a drink in the night without his mate shoots him down before he can climb back in bed." Inspector Mastiff stepped quietly to a gramophone and turned off "Love is a many-splendored thing." He searched the record albums hastily until he came upon "Kentucky Babe," and he put it on the gramophone. The female possum was 20 feet away from the soloist came to "Possum for Breakfast," "When you're sleepin', time is done," but she shot the record off the turntable with the ease of an expert. "You can still shoot as good as you used to could," growled Inspector Mastiff. "And that's enough evidence for he and I," piped up Sergeant Dashhound. "What are you gonna do?" quavered the guilty possum. "We gotta play house, station house," grunted Inspector Mastiff, and he and the sergeant led her to their squad car. "Okay, I done it," said the late possum's widow on the way to the police station. "He came home once too often with bunny hairs on his lapel. You don't get them hairs at no rat race, like he always said he was." As the car sped along, Sergeant Dashhound thought ruefully, "Everybody who wants to die with their boots on should go to bed fully clothed." Moral: husband slaughter is occasionally just, but why should the mother tongue bite the dust? We'll end it there. I hope you sleep well. Good night.